two, 1 2. One two, 1 2, 1 2, 1 2, 1 2. Mic testing. 1 2, mic testing. One two, 1 2. Mic testing. 1 2. Auski. Hello, hello. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. 9 8 7 6 5 4 3 2 1. 7 6 5 7. 1 2. 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. Iko sawa?
Oya. 1 2 1 2.
Hi.
Check.
Check.
Mando ongea.
Yes, check mic. Unanisikia?
Ona sauti.
Bado. Yes. Zaka ni aje? Utanipiga picture. Nipiga picture ni kama kama naongea. Check mic check. Unanisikia?
Mando naongea.
Naongea. Unisikii? Wewe.
Huh?
One, two.
Check mic. Check. Check.
Jesus.
Check mic. Check. Yes. Hapa ni wapi? Check mic. Check.
Could you hear me? 1, 2. 1, 2. One, two. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. Unasikia? One, two. 1, 2. 1, 2. Good evening, everyone. Good evening.
Check microphone. Check, 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 check. 1, 2. 1, 1, 2. Check, check. Check, check, mic. Check. Check, check. Yep. Yeah. Zero seven 2 4 yeah.
Sasa ina 1 2 1 2.
Let me call you. Let me call you. Aya, please. Yo. we will be starting. Thanking you for your presence, but we will do that again later today. No, in South Africa, Oliver Tambo was very revered. You know that you share a name with one of our most respected freedom fighters in South Africa. So I will never forget you. But Mr. Oliver Tambo, I'm going to leave the introductions and bio to you because I always forget something and people get angry with me because I forget what their bio, 70 years of their life, things like that, right? Mr. Tambo is here today to talk about talent engagement, right? One of Africa's biggest pain points. I'm not going to say much about that because I know you are. But the brain drain, the talent drain, the competing with the international market drain that is so easy now, and it's facing each and every HR professional in Africa. It's not unique to Kenya. We struggle with the same things in Nigeria, same things in South Africa. It's just so easy to grab our talent, right? If we do not engage them, which is, I've heard wonderful things and shared some time with you and listened to what you do in your own workplace. So we're very much looking forward to, and now grateful for you sharing your knowledge on the topic with us today. So thank you so much, Mr. Tambo. I am handing over the mic to you. Are we using the same mic, some people? Okay, thank you so much, everybody. Let's give a hand to Mr. Tambo. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Linda.
You're welcome.
I was hoping you'd introduce Regenesys as well.
No, it's fine. I'll do
Good.
that later.
Good, good. Good evening, everyone. Happy to have this conversation with you. Very passionate about talent management. This is something that essentially kick-started my journey in HR. It was all about talent, and so this is what we'll discuss today. I'm very honored to have you join the conversation this evening. I know you are experts in known spaces, and therefore I'll essentially just be setting the framework for the conversation, but I bet the idea behind it is just to inch forward the conversation around talent and perhaps sharpen the knowledge together and build the right premise on how we manage talent together. So the conversation is around how do we keep our talents switched on, and primarily today I'm assuming that for us to crack this conversation, you hire talents. We are starting from that base, so we don't step too much back. Isn't it? We have hired the talents, they're in the organization, and therefore we are looking for how to engage them. There's a whole mass of topic around talent acquisition that we'll not dive into. It's a totally different conversation together. It's a whole monster on its own, and therefore we'll just keep it here. But talent acquisition is equally important, and therefore we are assuming that by the time we get here, you already have talent in your business. And when we define talent, we're not speaking to the various spheres. Most of the time when you say talent, it's either musical talent, artistic talent. We are just speaking to capability, passion, attunement, brilliance, to whatever vocation our people are in, whether it's finance, marketing, HR, supply chain. That's what we call talent. The people who essentially contribute to your business in a positive way. It speaks to commitment, it speaks to capability, it speaks to motivational fit, and that's what we'll be discussing today together. Talent. So I'll just probably take a short moment to introduce myself. Yeah, so I'll introduce myself. This is me. I borrow my name, like Linda said, from South Africa. I'm born, bred here in Kenya. So I don't, dance amapiano very well. Don't assume that, this guy comes from down south. I'm born, bred here in Kenya. I have 10 plus years of experience in HR, It's a beautiful journey that I've had working with some of great organizations here. Before CIPLA, I was with L'Oreal. Before L'Oreal, I was a mentee with Unilever. And they exposed me to a great many ideas around talent management. And if I step back, when I was in campus, I did a course in political science and sociology. Most of the people always ask me why I'm not in politics. But primarily, I'm passionate about talent management. So my campus is populated with a lot of engagements around building career fairs, bringing employers into the university to link students to opportunities that are out in the employment market. So that's the bedrock against which I built. And so I met a lot of HR professionals from Unilever who then put me in a space where I was driving conversations around employer branding and speaking to internships and speaking to what employers are looking for in young talent. That's where it all started. But this is also me. I really don't recognize the two pictures beneath there. Immediately after campus, I was a parking attendant. And, I had my reflector there. It was a very humbling assignment. And so I did that for a while. And then the picture to the bottom right, bottom left is what you'd call, hustling. This is the hustling. And most of the young graduates here in Nairobi would attest to what hustling is all about. It's about trying to set up your life, and it means taking any assignment that comes. So I used to do a lot of calligraphy for the Mata Hat Run. These are, where I come from. So when you see the picture at the top there, I didn't start from up there. This is where it all started. I'm very passionate about mentorship. I have 20 mentees who constantly visit me, and we have interesting conversations around how do you manage your career? How do you begin prepping yourself? And I've done about 10 rules for young people in terms of how do you prep yourself for success. They consume that with a lot of zest, and it has helped a lot of them also rise. The gentleman in the orange t-shirt is a good innovator. He's worked with Huawei quite a while, and he's gotten the exposure to go to South Africa and also pitch in Korea as well. But most of them are doing great, and I'm happy to be, a good support in their system. I work at CIPLA Kenya Limited, the picture that you see on the top left. I have an amazing team of 130 people across the different African countries. The bulk of them work here in Kenya, and we do amazing work there, just caring for life. And then, of course, the bottom left there, I'm a fitness enthusiast. If you don't find me riding bikes at Karura, I'm probably hiking a mountain somewhere in Africa. So this is me. A mentor, a dad to 2 girls. I'm a passionate HR, and I'm an active person. I think that's a comprehensive introduction, isn't it? Good. So this is the organization that I currently work with. It's CIPLA. We're a very old organization. We've been there close to a century. The mission is to care for life. So primarily, our agenda is around availing affordable medication that's of good quality to the various patients that we see across the world. It's a mission that's alive, and it's a mission that most of us really buy into at the very core of what we do. And so you'll see us in hospitals, you'll see us in missions, you'll see us caring for people born with cleft lips. You'll see us in different spaces because we believe that every person and every life deserves some level of good care. CIPLA is quite renowned, and I think the brand differentiated itself around the latter part of the 1990s and the early part of 2000 when we availed HIV and AIDS medication at below $1. It changed most lives in sub-Saharan Africa and in other countries across the world. So This is the organization that we currently contribute and invest our passion in. I'm joined here by my colleagues, Diana and Moses. Probably you could just wave and say hi. Good. So CIPLA is an acronym that comes from the words chemical, industrial, pharmaceutical laboratories. It's Indian-based. It's a pan-Indian brand. It was essentially set in place to help make India self-sufficient, a mission and an agenda that currently also helps the 7 countries that we work in sub-Saharan Africa. So this is where I'd like to start the conversation today. These ads suck. It's a pin that was put in Google's kitchen in California. So Google was just starting in early 2000, and there was a competition that was happening. You remember the tech bubble of the late 1990s, early 2000. And there was a big problem at Google, and there was a massive competition in the tech industry. And the competition was around building a software engine that could link searches, online searches, to ads, to advertisements. And Google was in the competition. There was another company called Overture that was also in the competition. Now, Overture was well known. They were the muscle in the tech industry. They had invented online advertisement. In fact, pay-per-click was the brainchild of Overture. And so everybody invested on Overture, saying, you know, they're definitely going to win the competition to build the search engine that links online searches to particular ads. And so as the competition went on, Larry Page, who was the then CEO of Google, was really frustrated by, you know, the fact that the engine that built kept linking searches to the wrong results. So you'd search for something like, you know, H1B motorbikes, and it gives you a results for law firms that gives you certain visa application forms. So it just didn't work. So after some time, he puts this post, and he adds to the post in the kitchen dossiers that spoke to the complexity of the problem. So someone walks into the kitchen and sees this post, and he picks it, and he works on it. So he remembers, so there's a problem that I'd seen that looked exactly like this. So he begins to work on that problem. He works the Friday night, he works on Saturday night, and on Sunday morning at around 5 a.m. on 24th of May, 2002, he brings back the results and he pins it back there. He mails it to Larry Page and the team. Now this person was not in the advertising department. He was actually in the search department. But he took the problem and he worked on it. This is the gentleman that worked on that problem. He's called Jeff Dean. And so it becomes a massive, massive win for Google. They are then the first to do a proper solution to linking searches to advertisement. In fact, it said Google used to make $6 million in a year. That year alone, after Jeff Dean invented that solution, Google moves from $6 million to $99 million in terms of top-line revenue. And by 2014, from this particular solution, Google was making $150 million per day. So the solution he brought contributes 90% of Google revenue. So it's a solution that's very sudden. It is transforming. It is very decisive. And it is glorious. Okay? So, of course, the question is then, why did he do it? Why did he do it? And so there's a gentleman called Jonathan Rosenberg who sees this solution and is like, okay, this is fantastic. Let me do a book about the solution that Jeff Dean brought. And he approaches Jeff Dean to ask, you know, there's a solution that you brought. Do you remember the sticker that was in the kitchen? And Jeff Dean struggles to remember that solution. He struggles. It's like, what solution was that? So Jonathan then has to walk him through and say, well, you don't remember the search engine problem that you sat on 2 nights continuous, brought a solution, it grew the revenues of Google from $6 million to $99 million in a year. They're like, that problem. It wasn't a big deal. Everybody at Google does it. Okay? Everybody at Google does it. And so, essentially, I'll pose the question there. That particular problem has been studied by several scientists across the 90s, and they're trying to see which tech industries have done better. And so there are 3 models that were particularly being looked at. The STAR model, then you have the professional model, then you have the commitment model. So the STAR model is essentially, there's a group of thinkers who said, if you want to build a great organization, then what you need to do is get superstars, get the brilliant, the most talented people into the organization. And most organizations went through this direction. There's another model that spoke to the professional one. Put systems, put structures, make sure that you educate your people so that they have the right capabilities to deliver the objective. And a lot of institutions followed that. And then there's also the commitment model that spoke to create a shared vision, create a shared objective that people can buy into, and then they work towards that. Now, these studies show that in all these models, the model that worked the best and still work the best is the commitment model. Creating a space where people have a shared vision and a shared objective and they get attuned to it is the best way to win success. In fact, the studies even reveal that in terms of the survival rate, 3 times, companies that applied the commitment model survived better, and even when they did their IPOs, they had better success rates. So this is going to be, again, the premise of the conversation. And so it's important to look at talent engagement. Why is it important? Yeah? Why do you think it's important, talent engagement? The biggest struggle of HR people. Why do you think it's important? Can I get just a few, probably, reactions? Talent engagement. Anybody that can speak to it? The online team, you can do a chat. I'm not giving you my solution before I get a response. Talent engagement. Entrepreneurs. Yeah.
Maybe I can go. I think talent engagements allow the company to receive feedback. It's a channel through which it allows the company to receive feedback from the talent itself and to be able to feed that feedback back into the process of getting the most out of the personnel that works in the company. So the reason as to why I can say that it is important, it gives the opportunity to receive feedback. And feedback is key. I think there's a company I heard say that feedback is breakfast for champions. It's a way of getting the most out of. I mean, you cannot work in isolation knowing everything. So you need to get feedback so that you can also enable to achieve maximum results. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, the way I see it is, people are human, right? And so, and mostly they tend to care about things based on how much you really make them care, in the sense of how much you even show them that you care about them. So I feel like even both in my experience working and also recruiting people and having my own team, the thing that I've learned is the more people feel like, people get to be more motivated when you engage them more, when they feel like they're listened to. And so I guess really for the best results, it's usually, I guess, it's actually way more recommended that you listen to your people and you engage them in the solutions that they're building, because then they have an emotional connection to them. It's their solution in that way.
Good. Yeah, so I think spot on. So we have a Gen Z crisis right now, eh? And I think the conversation has been quite profound in terms of getting the feedback back, like the gentleman has said, getting feedback back from the team and acting on that feedback. And I like what she said around just making sure that, you know, we are human, bottom line. We are human. And therefore, everything that we do as organizations need to speak to the humanity, isn't it? Right. So talent engagement is important, and perhaps we'll just look at it at a more broader level, because it is the basis upon which we define excellent performance. Yeah? So the story that we shared about Jeff Dean, you do have probably, like myself at CIPLA, 130 talents. Now, probably the strategy will work, isn't it? But we never know where the unique differentiating strategic advantage can come from. It can come from a single employee, isn't it? And so it's important to always have the right engagement model, because it is the best way to define exceptional performance. There's a case that was being cited. Think about you being given, say, a puzzle to resolve, and you're told to use colors to map out Africa, you know, use colors, and it's a complex problem. Use the colors to draw the map of Africa. And so you're struggling with the puzzle, and so at some point when you're almost failing, someone slips out a note and says, as you're going through the puzzle, there's someone who went through it and actually figured out the solution. It's a very simple solution. So at some point, if you're unable to continue, just reach out and they'll help you. So think about how that changes the way we look at the problem, isn't it? Once you get the affirmation that there's someone else who cares about your complexity and is willing to help, everything changes. In fact, the study that looked at that particular problem and put certain individuals into the case revealed the chances of resolving the problem rise 422 times, 422% higher by just being given a note. And most of the time, the note doesn't even have any solution. You've just been told there's someone who's willing to support you. The problem become too complex. So it's exceptional that we create spaces that allow for defining of performance. So defining engagement is very important within the organization. So you get emotional connection, you get employees attuned, and one of the things that organizations today struggle with is, say, communicating the mission of the organization. Usually you want to say, okay, so we are an organization that cares for life. But beyond that, how do you seek to achieve an understanding both mentally and emotionally, okay? So once people are emotionally attuned, they're able to go above and beyond. We, in HR, draft a lot of contracts, and the contracts say 8 to 5 p.m., isn't it? But when you think about it, employees work usually more than 8 to 5, isn't it? Yeah, so how do you begin moving your employees from the contractual assignment to emotional commitment to the assignment? So it's very important. Then it leads to motivation and initiative. What Jeff Dean did at Google, it's essentially just initiative that goes beyond the assignment. It's beyond the job description. It's not their core area or mandate to deliver on that, but they feel the desire to go ahead and contribute to the larger vision. There's alignment with goals. People begin to align their goals to the goals of the organization. There's continuous learning and development when employees are properly engaged. And we know that learning agility is one of the key competencies today. The rate at which change happens is so fast that we need employees that continuously upskill and learn new capabilities, isn't it? I think you'll all agree. Regenesys here is delivering some really great classes in AI, proficiency. And HR, perhaps, you know, this is a new competencies that we don't have. You just get applications. You know, the cover letter comes and it's done by ChatGPT. You know, so we need to adapt faster to also begin realizing how do we get our organization to learn fast and to resolve complexities in a much simpler way. I don't need to sit and review contracts from 8 to 5 when I have a system that can potentially do it in an hour. So learning and development and growth becomes a new area that is very critical, and only engaged employees seek information based on their current assignment. There's collaboration and teamwork, and I can't even begin to say this. It's been a discussion for ages. We work in silos. Marketing team works as their own. Finance is just checking on us. You know, these problems continuously come, but how do we get the organization to a place where there is that collaboration and synergy between functions so that people can deliver on what they need to do? Innovation and creativity, again, back to Jeff Dean. The moment people are attuned, engaged, they're able to bring in the best at work and lead to that. The sense of ownership and accountability, citizenship behavior. And there's some numbers that I'll show you in a few moments, just to speak to this. You see, the engagement levels of the organization speak to how the employees speak about the organization. And I told you that one of my initial assignment was around employer value proposition. How do you get the organization to speak externally or internally to the great things that they're doing so that you have the right buy-in internally and the right talent aspiring to come in? And so sense of ownership, citizenship behavior comes in when there's the right engagement. And of course, the metric that we always look at in terms of retention and loyalty. So this is why it's important to engage talent. And so we start cracking and say, no human is limited. We all agree, isn't it? But then why are a lot of people limited in the spaces where we are? I saw a question once that how do you excite deadwood and get them to burn as the rest? No human is indeed limited. But if you've read the book of Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, you will agree that unleashing potential requires certain factors. And I was just happy to see that Regenesys does what? Awakens potential. So potential can be there, but it needs certain factors to get it out and get it to a space where it becomes a useful resource. It needs certain factors. And so if we look at the current reality within organizations, if you're entrepreneurs in your spaces, only 23% of the employees on average are engaged. These are the people who actually work, 23%. These ones are quietly quitting. They're just saying, the moment I see that good opportunity, I am out. And then these ones are loudly quitting, loudly. They'll speak about everything going wrong within the organization. So the two percentages, 59 and 18, I mean, this is a significant chunk of the organization. Yeah? It's a this is a significant chunk of the organization. This is the portion that gives the organization that stagnation, the pullback, or just doing an average work. Why objectives are never met, revenues keep stagnating. This is why. So you have a huge chunk there. So the function of HR, the function of leaders, is then to begin transforming this, enabling and empowering this group to contribute and increase the numbers there. And this is a Gallup report. This particular one is actually Africa-based. This is Africa report. And the reason behind this is that, number one, leadership gaps are glaring within organization. You have someone who's doing extremely well. You're like, okay, so this guy is achieving 120% of their objectives year on year. Let's promote this person to be a people manager. You promote them to their level of incompetence immediately. And then the problem persists on. So there's that. Organizations don't train. They don't develop leaders. They don't teach on leadership capability to get people to where they need to be. A big problem, this one. Leadership gaps. Poor communication and lack of transparency. I can't begin to emphasize this. Communication is one of the primary important aspects that every organization needs to consider. And I think even our country as well. Communication. Constantly updating your people on the progress of the organization, on the objectives of the organization, on how they're being met, what is the lag, and where they need to contribute. Because, like she said, we are human beings. It's only important that I understand where we are going, how I'm contributing to that, and when I do, some recognition that comes with it. So investment in communication, or including communication as a strategic aspect of the business, is critical. Discordant processes that don't marry, and I want to speak to that with swarms of employee development data. So you have a scenario where there are employee-manager conversations. Someone says, I'd like to move from marketing to finance in the next 3 years. And this is logged in, the data is there, it's in a system somewhere, or in an Excel sheet somewhere, or in an email somewhere. But how do you retrieve back into that database to get this information and marry this information to opportunities that are prevailing within the organization, or match it to development initiatives, trainings, etc. So organizations have got swarms of data that don't marry to processes. So again, think Regenesys, AI, new tech comes in. Having robust systems can aid in this, but this is one of those massive problems that speak to the disengagement. If someone has spoken about the move over the past 2-3 years, and we know that the average stay of employees is about 3 years, isn't it? So I've been telling you I need to go into finance for the past 3 years, and it has not happened. What do? I start looking out, isn't it? So that's a big contributor. Then there's mass strategy. One shoe fits all. This is where the organization is going. This is how we pay salaries. And so please fit in. We pay 6% pension. The basic is this amount. We don't pay housing levy. Car allowances for the people in sales. So you fit in there. But you find that as the generation is changing, like today, Gen Zs don't even care about the pension. They don't want the pension. Pay it to a holiday somewhere or begin paying a mortgage on my behalf. But companies are not adapting as fast to this kind of changes. And neither do we create or listen to this feedback that keeps coming. I think even surveys, employee surveys, they're structured to get the information that we're seeking for, right? What would you like improved? Are you happy with your technology, etc. But I've not seen surveys that speaks to, say, compensation. How do you like compensation structured, right? So these are things that probably we need to feed in. Traditional management philosophy, it's a hierarchy report, and that organizational politics, I can't even begin to dive into that. It's a massive, massive topic. But these are the reasons behind the numbers, okay? I don't know if someone has something to add. Why do you think employees are disengaged in your spaces? Yeah?
Is it better now? Okay. So I'm looking at the 71% that's not so happy coming to work every day, and the possible reasons why they're not so happy. From an organization size point of view, would you say it's easier to change those percentages in a smaller company than it would be in a more established company, or the size and the nature of the business doesn't really matter here?
Good question. And I think that would introduce me to this. Yeah, so it's around culture and it's around leadership gaps, okay? Because the organization doesn't report to one person, does it? Within the organization, we have micro-organizations. And that's why you need to make sure that your culture speaks to that. And just to probably backtrack, one of the things, and then maybe this is also to aid the HR colleagues that we have here. One of the things that Google used to do that made Jeff Dean be in a position to take that crazy assignment and resolve it, they used to play hockey at the parking lot on a regular weekly basis. In that hockey game, Larry Page and the most recent intern would play the same game, and it was rough. It was a very rough game. And you could shove your director, you know, to the ground, and nobody would hold you accountable. That was one. Number two, they held company-wide debates on a regular basis. And in the company-wide debate, they would interrogate the strategy. And the intern, as well as Larry Page, would challenge some of those ideas. It had been done for such a long time that it became second to nature. It was not you being told, oh, you know, we have an open door policy. Look, the door is open. It was something that had entrenched into the culture of the organization. So when Larry Page doesn't remember what he did and he says it was commonplace, it was actually commonplace. And leadership is very critical. And one of the things that is said is that mid-level managers, forget about the top executives, mid-level managers are 52% more overloaded on a regular basis. They do 52% more work than the assignment calls for. Again, a Gallup report. And so because of that, the attention shifts from the people to the work that needs to be done. I know someone who taught me a very good concept about compassionate leadership. Before work begins, she said, you need to be in a position where you can discuss, you know, what your employee does over the weekend, what makes them happy, whether it is legal or not. Okay? So you need to create a space that is psychologically safe, that people can be vulnerable enough to speak about their complexities without fear of judgment. Only then do you begin to tap on their most capable skills. So leadership is very critical, and to answer you, it's around how do we empower leadership to be CEOs of their own spaces so that they're able to, you know, still deliver that performance capability that you require. And so primarily that is the conversation. So how do we get talent switched on? It's around leadership development, constant training for the people managers so that they're able to handle feedback. An interesting fact, in Africa, we don't give candid feedback. We gloss. We gloss feedback a lot. So you get situations where a leader is supposed to give candid feedback. Because it is difficult, you call in your HR. HR, this person is not doing what they need to do. Please give them the feedback. So leadership capability development is very important. How do you motivate your teams? The picture that you see there is a picture of Alexander the Great. And Alexander the Great is famed for two things. One was his capability or the knack for knowing how long it would take to transport elephants from Paris to Cairo with extreme accuracy. He knew the exact dates. In his warfare, one of the things that he's known for is logistics management, supply chain management. So food got there on time. Weapons got where they were supposed to be on time, every time, consistently. And so the phrase they use is that he could tell how long it would take to transport elephants from Paris to Cairo with extreme accuracy. That was his first skill. The other skill he was very good at was the ability to make people lay down their lives for his causes. Most of the soldiers in Alexander's army stayed away from home 4 years plus, never seen their families, and they would, continuously do that. So we're talking about leadership that's able to draw in commitment from their teams, and it means these are people that listen in to their people. They know what makes their people tick and what inspires their teams. They understand, how do you get the best out of this? And so leadership development still tops the list in terms of this. Opportunities for professional development, Maslow's hierarchy. Everybody aspires towards the tip of the pyramid, isn't it? So you cannot assume that people just come in to be satisfied. It's very important to constantly provide opportunities for professional development. Recognition and rewards. Human beings are inherently self-serving, isn't it? We want to see how do we grow. So when people do amazing work, can we put in place recognition frameworks? How do we give meaningful work assignments? Everybody wants to be part of a larger cause, something bigger than themselves. Effective communication, we already talked about that. Create healthy work-life balance. Again, a massive conversation today. Employee well-being programs. When you look at Gen Zs and when you look at millennials today, one of the most important things that they appreciate is a space where their mental wellness is considered. The top 3 things Gen Z value is diversity, wellness, and purpose. Okay? So how do we feed that into the workplace, and how do we look at that? Millennials value brand reputation. So I think we millennials look at Google, Safaricom's, and Microsoft. That's where we want to work. They look at brand reputation. How does that place look, and what's the reputation out there? In terms of flexible and supportive policies, again, just speaking back to humane and enabled workspaces. So when you look at this, it still trickles down to the same things. A good culture and a good leadership, a space that provides for psychological safety. People can express themselves. Town halls that enable and give people the opportunity to express themselves. Passion projects that gets out, what's best in us. Human-centered. For managing workflows and for projects, I don't know how many of you have worked with Trello and Slack, isn't it? Yeah. So how we domesticate these systems and how we, incorporate them in our work process, then gives us that enablement to achieve that. So essentially, it is important that talent engagement is a key conversation. It is something that can aid business and does lead to good success at the end of the day. And so if we are to define exceptional, and then something else happened is they would get the supplies for food at the same time, and they would gather straw for the fire at around the same time. And so they learned that, if a German is going to collect the straw, you will not shoot. You will not shoot. A truce that is not written, not said, not spoken, but the snipers would not shoot because they realize, okay, so as the Britons are going to collect, we'd rather also take the time to go collect the straw before sleeping. And so they enumerated a lot of things that created certain micro truces that eventually culminated into the Christmas Day big truce. And so they all came out and buried their dead together and celebrated. So when you talk about employee engagement, it's the small, daily, routine, consistent communication that we do, or gestures that we do, that then allows the entire organization to come together. Make sense? Make sense? Yeah. So this is what we're speaking about when we say all this. But essentially, it's how we systematize, it's how we make this a consistent habit. So let me post there and probably just get reactions and questions. Questions? Do you have any reactions online?
Hello, my name is Nadia. Thank you for the presentation. I am a Gen Z HR. So I'm very curious about, you mentioned that right now it's a crisis dealing with Gen Zs. Majority of my team is Gen Z. So I'm curious to hear what CIPLA is doing with the Gen Zs to ensure diversity and wellness and purpose. And is it only towards the Gen Zs, or it is company-wide, and what strategies or what things have changed within CIPLA to accommodate that?
Thank you for that. Could you probably collect a few questions and then respond to them?
Thanks, Oliver. My name is Sam. Sitting here and listening to it, it fits the normal for-profit or the corporate. I work in not-for-profit, and at times strategies come with localization. A localization is that I go into a very rural place with very little literacy levels. Then how then do you first? You remember you told us, assume you've already recruited. So in this case, is talent pegged on literacy? And after that, how then do you get to engage a group of people who, for some reason, the literacy levels are significantly low? Yes.
Good question, good question. Any other and then use that to develop strategies or develop engagements that then deliver that engagement or commitment at the end of the day. That's what I would say to answer your question around working with teams, local teams that are not necessarily academically qualified. And so that also speaks to the diversity of the workspace. How do you manage the diversity? I think we're moving to a space where mass policy will never work. And so we need to start speaking to the various interests of different people. And I can tell you, compensation is going to shift. So if I want to buy a house over the next 10 years, you don't need to pay me pension, channel that to mortgage. If I want to go on holiday in Paris in the next 6 months, why would I have you pay my medical bill? Why can't you just channel that? So these are things that are currently coming in, and it has to speak to the various generations. At CIPLA, we are lucky to have baby boomers to Gen Z. So you have a cross-cutting mix of different generations, and so you have to speak to them at the different levels. And it means for some people titles matter, and I'll give you an example. We are getting to a space where, when you're giving someone a role in Ghana, the title is going to be different from the title of someone in Kenya and someone in Uganda. Because in Ghana, titles are the holy grail of what makes employees happy. So, you'll call a manager, a country manager in Ghana, and then here in Kenya it's an area sales manager or regional manager. And, these are things that then we have to start accommodating. It disrupts the structure because, you want uniformity, but again, at the end of the day, it's not what the system wants. So it's just trying to see how does the structure then adapt to the realities of the environment. Yeah, so that would be my answer. I don't know whether there's any other thoughts around intergenerational. I believe we have, yeah.
That was a lovely presentation. My question, just a follow-up on the question back. You've mentioned that the shortlisting process, that ideally you've met individuals who are professionals and very talented in things they're doing, yet have no related background. Yourself, you did political science, and you're a pay setter in human resource and talent acquisition. So then how would we question the shortlisting process? Because we find a lot of Gen Z and new professions are off what they're doing. We've seen it with Google. They changed their whole protocol and the idea of what recruitment process is. So how then would you incorporate that? Because we are moving into an age of AI. Yourself, you say you find it difficult to go through many contracts over 8 to 5. So you prefer a system where you key in or upload all of them and it's a list for you. So how then would we move from the minimum requirements to a more approach that is more intergenerational for you?
Who can help answer the question from the audience? Yeah. So I'll just give you probably a picture, and you'll tell me if that answers your question. So there's an interesting thing happening in India right now, CIPLA India, the HQ office. So we advertise a role, and then they say, you don't need to apply, you can walk into the interview, and there are different panels. And so they'll make a distinction of your capability based on how you respond to them. So you can literally just walk into the interview on the day. But I also think where we are going, it's beginning to change. And probably that's a solution we need for now. But over the next few years, I don't think that's the direction of the employment is going. It's going the gig direction, gig economy. So you're going to be creating your profile, whether it's on LinkedIn or Fiverr or different job boards, and you show your capability and proof and testimonial of work done before. And companies will come and shop and assign you or offer you assignments, and you can also cherry pick which one you want to do. So that's the direction that's going. And then right now, I think what we're seeing is the employees that are coming in, they're beginning to ask, you know, is it full-time? Is it remote? I mean, it's a very common question right now. Even for internships, can I do it remotely? Must I come to the office daily? Is it something that I can do based on particular projects and not the entire assignment? I was just speaking this afternoon to one of my employees who went to speak at USIU. And in the panel, one of the panelists spoke about, you know, doing the hard things. In fact, the advice was, as you go into the workplace, please prep yourself because you're going to do certain administrative assignments. And the entire audience squirmed, okay? Because they don't envision that, they don't want that, and they would rather avoid that particular aspect. So we'll start seeing the new crop of employees that are coming into the workspace would want to cherry pick the assignments that they're doing, and perhaps maybe the administrative roles will be the ones paying much more than, you know, the other assignments. I saw in Mauritius actually, plumbing, masonry pays a lot more than the professional work because we are beginning to miss, you know, people who are technically capable to those parts of the job. But to answer you in simple, I think AI is going to play a big role in terms of just doing the assessments of capability. We'll begin seeing people building their profiles and companies come and check it based on your testimonials, and that will speak to how we hire competent talent. Are we good with the time? Okay, we can take another round.
One more question.
There's a question from the online viewers. Consider a boss that is younger. How could they keep their team, who majority are older than them, engaged and productive?
Good question.
And the second question, how could performance management be used objectively as a tool to keep employees engaged?
Even better. Even better. Okay, so then let's take one more and respond to them at once.
Good evening. My name is Joanne. I'd like to ask a question. Right now in Kenya, there's this Gen Z movement that is saying, once we are done with the government, we are coming to the corporate. And we know it's majorly based on the culture. So apart from the engagement initiatives, what advice would you give corporates? Because in the next probably 5 years, there will be the Occupy corporates will be a movement. What advice would you give corporates?
Wow. The questions get better as we go. Right, so let me start with your question. During the Black Lives Matter movement, there was a lot of corporates that jumped into the campaign to say, we support, we endorse, we drive. One of the corporates that mentioned that had a massive backlash because of a case of an employee who was had a different sexual orientation, was discriminated within the organization before. I'll avoid mentioning the name of the organization, but the backlash was massive, massive, massive. And so because of that, they had to relook the policies, the systems, and do a self-audit in terms of the credibility to certain conversations that are people-oriented. And I think that was a very good example for me because and when I was telling you about Gen Z's appreciating purpose, diversity and equity, and you know, they speak to that in terms of, is it actually lived, not claimed? It's not a claim issue. It's they want to see, is that a reality in the workspace? And I think employer value proposition is going to shift from speaking to the great things that you're doing to actually doing and letting your employees speak for themselves. That's the direction that it's going to go. So ideally, the advice is don't claim what is not authentically experienced within the organization. And so I think self-audit is very important to just make sure that whatever is being put across is something that actually happens. I think that's one of the critical advice I would say to most corporates. Yeah, so primarily that's the one thing that corporates can do. Otherwise, Occupy Corporate is going to be a massive movement as well. What was the question? Performance management, making performance management objective. So, yeah, so again, this trickles down to capability. Like, let me emphasize on this. People don't know how to manage performance and how to give feedback. You have no idea how pervasive that is. Because performance management doesn't start at the conversation and saying, what did you do? How did you do it? Did you meet your KPIs? It doesn't start there. It starts at the objective setting point, okay? The one disparity I've seen, most organizations assume the job description and the performance goals are the same, okay? It's not the same. Your job description is what the role requires you to do on an ongoing basis, isn't it? Day in, day out, today, tomorrow, over the next 5 years. Your objectives are what you need to achieve by the end of the period. Could be a year, could be a quarter, could be a semester. So that is a big disparity, and most organizations don't go to that level to emphasize that the objectives are these KPIs that you need to meet. They are not smart either. They are very surfaced, and most people do it as a tick box exercise. Huh? You know, we need to set our goals, you do it, and then at the end of the day, you submit it, it's marked that you did it. Now when conversations now begin to crack, certain things start to surface. Either assignment that should have been put in place were never put, or someone saying you did not do items that were never part of the objectives. So the goal setting stage is very critical. They need to be smart, they need to be time bound, they need to be measurable, they need to be achievable, and they need to be agreed upon between the employee and the manager, so that it's signed off and there's an agreement that this is going to be tracked. The other complexity that I see is that managers wait for the employees. It's like they have a black book here. So if you didn't do it, you know, they keep quiet and they record that waiting for you at the end of the review period and just say, okay, so now I have records. You didn't do this, you didn't do this. So it needs to be continuous. And I think most organizations are also beginning to move from performance management sessions to continuous feedback. So you're given assignments and the conversations either come weekly, monthly, quarterly, and you get to see where you're going and how you're progressing against your goals. Now, the laws are also adapting quite fast. Today, you don't just wake up and say, we're putting you on a performance improvement plan because you didn't meet your objectives. There's a lot more proof that you need to give in terms of, did you give the feedback? Did you put the employee on a learning or development plan? Do their capabilities meet the assignment, the objectives that are required? Otherwise, the employee has got the leeway to sue within the industrial court, and as a HR person or as a manager, you'll have a very difficult time proving that. So this is how you make it objective. Just make sure that process by process, there is an honest conversation, there is regular continuous feedback, there is records of non-performance, and that at the end of the day, when you're having that discussion, it's not, an attack process, but a synergistic conversation that both helps the employer and helps the employee. Yeah, and then there was a question around young bosses. Yes, so I think for young bosses, this is more, there's a point around managing the different complexities, and goes back to leadership development. So I don't think it's much about the age as it is about management and leadership capability. And of course, it's how we prepare the person who's coming to lead the people to anticipate some of these challenges. And it happens a lot. You get people who come in as interns, they've grown through the ranks, they've demonstrated good capability and how to track objectives, and they get assigned to certain teams who, for one reason or another, are older. Now, once this promotion happens, it starts from how you enable and empower the person to take the assignment. How do we communicate the change? Do we also communicate their capabilities? Do we communicate their achievements and assignment and why they're fit for that leadership role to the team they're going to lead and to the larger organization? That communication is important because then it gives them the credibility to come and say, hey team, I am given this position because I'm able to achieve these items. I have a track record behind me and I'm able to then drive that. Once that communication happens, it's also the person then takes on the leadership because it speaks to, are they able to create an emotionally safe or psychologically safe environment for these people who are older than them to get the feeling that this person is not coming to boss us, but to manage and enable us to also achieve our own objectives. So that is how, essentially, because there's a bit that's organizational oriented, there's a bit that's the leader oriented. So irrespective of the age, it's how they demonstrate their capability and how they encourage a psychologically safe space for the people to express themselves. There are instances where, of course, you'll get constant refusal to align with a new leader, but I think that's a totally different conversation because then you need to assert that authority in a certain way. Otherwise, if they are legitimately promoted, the communication is done, and their credibility is communicated, then it should just be easy. Yeah. Right, so I think we'll pause there. Right? Yeah. There was a mentee for the team to just also share their feedback back with us. I'll put it up and you can put in your comments and reactions. Otherwise, thank you very much. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you so much, Oliver. That was insightful. We're very grateful for you sharing your insights experience. I'm very disappointed that you didn't tell the participants about your wellness initiatives that you do at SIPLAB. That's ingenious.
Yeah.
So maybe you would want to share that a little bit because you did talk about employee wellness. Just tell us what you do. I think that was phenomenal and what you got from your program that you initiated. Do you mind?
Yeah, okay, we can do that. Yeah, so just to give you a highlight, most of these initiatives that we do at SIPLA, we try to keep them very smart and metrics driven. So last year, myself, Diana, and Moses, I'm not sure I can share the slide, but we carried out a wellness initiative that ran across the year. And we were looking at wellness 360 degrees across, because wellness, most of the time you assume it's mental wellness, physical wellness, or something else. But we tried to look at it in a 360 degrees space. And so what we did is we ran out a number of assessments in advance. So the first one was a survey just to check on the stress levels of our employees. And we got the data. We saw the top 3 stresses. One was work-related in terms of the workload. The second one was around finances. How do they manage their finances? And then the other one was around, emotional intelligence. They don't know how to manage the different complexities that come within their teams. So those ones were the top 3. So then of course, we stocked that data. We didn't use it yet. And then we did a health clinic in which doctors came to the office, and they did, again, assessment tests that revealed what percentage of our employees were obese, how many were overweight, how many had underweight, how many were normal, how many were hypertensive, and we took that data and we logged it in as well. Then we now began building the wellness strategy for the year. And one of the things was to address the financial complexities. We ran a number of financial workshops that then spoke to how do you manage your finances, how do you budget, and how do you plan for that. And then we went ahead and negotiated interest rates with the banks around here and got a preferential rate for all the employees that wanted to get bank facilities. But I think this year we're trying to also bring on board SACCOs to give access to finances. So that mitigated that a bit in terms of the financial stress. And then in terms of physical wellness and the physical wellness, we started a campaign called Zipline in Motion. And we wanted to hit 4 million steps in 3 months. And so, of course, we started a campaign to take people to Karura, paid for them on a weekly basis to go and do walks. And also those who couldn't come tracked their steps using either their Fitbit watches or mobile phones and sent to us those screenshots. So with that, the culmination was of course, the Stanchart Marathon. And we could see the progression in terms of the health movement. So the percentage of those who were obese, overweight began to reduce, and we were logging that data to just speak to the wellness motion. And then finally, in terms of the mental wellness, we ran Mind Your Mind campaigns, Mind Your Mind workshops, in which we engaged a number of counselors to deliver sessions, avail toll-free numbers for employees to call if they had any issues, either financial, legal, or personal that they wanted to speak to someone about, and they got that support. But beyond that, we also just constantly brought into the office space these people who would then give like massages, shoulder massages in the office, and that I think it. But essentially, the idea was to track the numbers and see where did we start and where did we get from a wellness standpoint. So I think that was a good one.
I think and the reason why I wanted you to talk about that is to prove that you don't just preach. You practice what you preach, and you do it every day in the organization that you are part of, and gives you the opportunity to do that. And as employees or people who benefited from that, they're engaged. They're there.
Absolutely.
I'm sure you can talk to us about retention strategies, and it starts with something as one would think simple as listening to your employees, which you did.
Yeah.
So congratulations for that too.
Thank you very
Congratulations
much.
for sharing your insights. We are forever grateful. You staying afterwards, right, to share a little bit of snacks in the back so that people can talk to you. Don't mind people coming up to you and asking you not personal questions.
Yeah.
Personally asking you questions related to HR.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much. So as promised, we are 10 minutes away from what you've been smelling for an hour now. So thank you so much. We have asked Skills AI, Chris Nderu from Skills AI, to give us an idea, introduction. Just let us know about these AI resolutions that is coming up, and that as an entity, an HR entity, we need to become aware of, because it is already part of our workforce without us knowing about it, really. So if you don't mind, Chris, if you could give us an introduction as to what is AI and why we shouldn't be afraid of it. Do you mind? Thank you so much.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Christopher Nderu. Good evening once again. My name is Christopher Nderu. Nice. My name is Christopher Nderu. Sorry for the mishap. I'm not more or less used to this. Anyway, we'll just move along. I'm here as a partner of Regenesys, and one of the key things that I do is train AI models to make work easier for different industries. like it has been said, I think my brother here, Oliver, has been talking about the role AI plays in managing and ensuring that things are much easier, also managing talent and all that. So what AI or AI builders are practically doing right now is making sure that you as a user are able to actually use the system to grow or optimize your systems. So basically my work is helping build the AI models, feeding them with data that will amplify what you need them to do for you. So, and that is where the world is actually headed. So everybody has to start warming up to the notion that AI is here to stay and build the expectations and actually tag along in the sense that you are going to grow and function better if you are using AI. Now, for instance, if you look at the HR angle that our brother has been talking about right now, you find that now people are now using AI models to actually help them manage the application processes that are related to HR, tracking. So you have that there's an applicant tracking system where you now key in what you really need the system to do for you, and basically helping you get the right people or the right talent for your company. So basically what I'm trying to say is simply this. In all industries that you may want to think about, even if it is finance, if you're looking at the finance angle, where now you have AI models that are now built to preemptively think or actually pinpoint where the risks may be before they even happen. When you look at the the insurance companies nowadays, the adoption of the AI in the insurance companies, you find that you're getting insurance claims are actually now preempted rather than what is the right term here? Rather than being rather than just popping up. You know how they pop up and you're trying to take care of them. So basically what I'm trying to say is that AI is a tool that now is being used, and companies are now making sure that they customize it to deal them or actually get the best out of their systems and their employees. I don't know how else I would explain this, but if you need to be in the business sector, if you need to be in the socio-economic sector, everything that you need just to move along in this world, you need the AI systems. And that is where now everybody should now start understanding that you need to learn this to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chris. We live in such exciting times, ladies and gentlemen, that we have the opportunity to learn from machines, or actually, let me put it that way. In the Industrial Revolution, we learned how we had to make peace with the fact our muscles are only going to take us this far, right? So the machines helped us there. I think we're at the precipice of something similar with AI, where we're going to start realizing our capability of our mind, not our creative thinking, not our problem-solving skills, not that which makes us human, but the limitations of processing in our minds needs to be handed over because it can be done simpler, better, faster by a tool that can differentiate between millions of processes for you and give you the best one and make you more productive. Because you're still going to use that critical thinking, that problem-solving skill, in order to be engaged with your talent and with your organization. I don't know if that makes sense to you. You're the expert. That's just what learning and development and reading has taught me about the possibility of AI. It's exciting, right? We're standing at that kind of change, and what happened when Ford revolutionized the industry for us, right? We're right there, and we're part of that revolution. It's fantastic. So one of the things that I'm also tasked to do is to just give you an informative acknowledgement that we are, as an entity, also very interested in sharing these learnings and sharing these teachings with corporates, right? Generative AI, and one of the programs that we are running in September is generative AI for the human resource function within an organization. But like Chris has said, it's so vast that we have to focus on each and every sector. So please go and speak to one of our corporate ed members if you are interested in training for your organization, specifically in generative AI and how do we use the tools and techniques. But we decided on HR for now because we know HR is the managers of the most expensive asset in the organization, the humans, yeah? And therefore the most valuable asset in the organization as well, which most investments should go to the humans of the organization, right? So we're focusing on their training for September, and the good news is it's 119,000 for the Kenya shillings for the program. The CE people will give you the information, but just because you were generous enough with your time today, everyone sitting here who signs up for the program will get a, where's the drum roll? Where's the drum roll? Didn't you say I must wait for a drum roll? Everyone sitting here today will get a 20% off discount to go on to the training for you or your team. So thank you so much, everybody. Thanks for being here. Fabian, thank you very much for organizing everything, CE. The Regenesys CE members, if you just put up your hand, any information there, you all registered, right? That's why we made you sign you more than once. They weren't allowed to tell you when you had to put in a code and then put in a code again and then register again and things like that. We wanted to make sure that we have the people so that we can, when you call us, when you tell us, not when you call us, when we send you the email, say that you're interested in, have that conversation and allow yourself, allow growth for yourself as well and for your team, yeah? So thank you very much. Dr. Patrick, I don't know if you would like to close, if you would like to say a word. Good luck, because the food smell is just getting better and better.
My name is Patrick Osere. I'm the director here. And I want to thank all of you for participating. Oliver, for an excellent job. Talent is not easy to acquire within an organization. I've spent 35 years working for different organizations, trying to get the best there is to drive innovation and to drive change. And it's always not very easy to do that. So thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chris. Chris was very modest. He's part of a team that's actually changing AI. AI has AI as a team around the world that are building the model as it's used. You know, it's almost like building the plane as you fly. Very, very challenging. You might have a serious accident, but they're building the plane as they fly. And they're now doing even a Swahili language, so that for the Swahili speakers, you can also have an option for AI. Very transformative, and we look forward to a very good partnership with you to be able to train our population here in Kenya on some of these emerging areas. Linda talked about the food that is coming, but actually there's something even more special on that. Oliver talked about in 6 months going to Paris, but actually at 6:30 today, we are going to Paris. The opening of the Olympic Games will be here. So as you enjoy your snacks, just sit down and see what happens. The Kenyan team will be passing, and we think we're going to break a few world records at the upcoming Olympics. We have an excellent team that is going to Paris. But I just wanted to say that learning is a constant thing in life. And in my previous job, working for the World Bank, I met with the head of the Microsoft corporation. And we were comparing notes. How do you make an organization innovative, creative, driven, and also the staff feeling that they're part and parcel of the change that they're doing? And 3 things came out of that. One was you should focus on results. Literally, in government, and I've worked across many countries, people always say that, oh, the government is not very efficient. But in government, there's one ministry that always has some of the best stuff, the Ministry of Finance. And why is that? That's because every year is a date for a budget. The budget must be ready by a certain date. And there's no qualms about it. If the budget is not ready, there's a crisis. And therefore, usually those who work in the Ministry of Finance generally are very driven, very focused, and very productive because they have a result, a deadline to have a specific outcome. And so as an organization, always think, what is that results that you want every staff to align to? And do they know what their role is in that particular result? Because quite often some people are just passing, like you said, you gave excellent percentages of a lot of people, almost 60%, 59% are just there. They're just in the organization. How do you transform that? Because that's a huge budget that is being spent on HR that is not achieving the result that you want. How do you transform that? Focusing on results, motivating them. So in Microsoft, what they did, they found that there was so much innovation that was going on, but people were hiding what they were doing. Why? Because if you created or invented something, you got a serious bonus and shareholding. So if I was working on something as Patrick or Sewe, and Oliver came to around my desk, I would close my computer because he might come and steal my idea, right? And if he left, I will open my computer. So there was so much early innovation across the organization that was being hidden, and nobody was. But the challenge was to go to the next level, you needed help. Perhaps to go to the next level, I need Chris. So I can hide, but I've reached the best of my abilities in terms of that innovation. But if Chris came and took a look at it, he'll say, have you tried this? Have you tried that? Have you tried that? And we go to the next level. And that would be Chris's best level. And then you go to Linda, and Linda would say, how about this? How about that? Have you explored this? Go to the next level. And then after 4 or 5 other people, it's a great innovation that will come out of that. So they changed the incentive structure to show that the bonus will be given to a group, not to an individual. And therefore, if Patrick or say reach a certain stage, I ran to Oliver and said, Oliver, this is where I am now. What do you think? So I think that as we think about our organizations, ourselves, how do we actually transform? And Kenya, we are going through a very serious digital transformation. And I think the HR departments have a role to lead that effort to ensure that we are truly digital. And we as an organization, we are constantly asking, what is it that the society wants? We are very dynamic. What are some of the challenges? What are some of the solutions? What is the government priority? What are corporate priorities? And then evolve and work with various corporates to ensure that that is successful. So thank you so much for coming. We look forward to working with you. And for the younger people, this is a quest in life. You'll never stop learning. You could be a Gen Z. You could be an oldies like us, but you're still learning. So just inculcate in your life that learning is a process that is constant because change is always happening. And I always tell my children, perhaps I'm the Gen Z in the family. They say, oh, no, Daddy, it can never be a Gen Z in our family. So thank you very much for coming. And we look forward to interacting with you during the social event and also watching the closing ceremony together. Thank you. Opening ceremony.
Thank you very much, everybody. Is it ready? Shall we start? Okay, there we go. Please go and help yourself and have fun, talk to one another, learn more from one another, right? And have the conversation that you need to have. This is why you're here. Thank you very much. Go and help yourself, ladies and gents.